Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin Alleyne, and today we'll update you what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, the CEO of Girl Scouts of Greater New York joins us to speak about how the Girl Scout Cookie program helps develop important life skills in young girls. Then, a parent leader for New Yorkers United for Childcare speaks to us about their fight for free childcare for all and how it will not only help the working families but New York economy as well. After that, we look back at an interview with an attending psychologist for the Child Psychiatric Outpatient Department at Montefiore Health System to discuss seasonal affective disorder. And finally, we speak with two representatives from the Bronx Economic Development Corporation to discuss how they are helping support small businesses in the Bronx. So stay tuned. All this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and today is Tuesday, January 28th. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. From building leadership skills to promoting community service and self-confidence, the Girl Scouts of Greater New York continue to make a positive impact on young girls across the city. Whether it's through their iconic cookie program, STEM initiatives, or community-based projects, Girl Scouts are learning life skills that will help shape the leaders of tomorrow. Joining us today to talk about the incredible programs they offer and how they're shaping the future for young women right here in New York City is their CEO, Karen Lundgard. Karen, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, I gave a little bit of an overview, but can you give us a little bit more information about the overall mission of Girl Scouts, especially when we're focusing on what's happening here in New York?
Yeah. So the Girl Scouts of Greater New York's mission is to build girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. Our goal is to champion girl ambition. So whatever they would want to do, we want to ensure that they have the tools. We want to equip them to make sustainable change within their communities.
Now, how has the Girl Scouts of Greater New York evolved over the years to meet the changing needs of girls and young women?
Yeah, so we have four basic program focal areas, and all of these are going to be so important as our Girl Scouts enter their careers in the future. The first is STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. No matter what path our Girl Scouts decide to take in life, they are going to encounter technology. We want to make sure that they have the skills to keep themselves safe online and be able to navigate the new world, especially around all this new technology. Our next focal area is environmental leadership. We have a gorgeous 425-acre camp in upstate New York. We want to make sure that our Girl Scouts understand the impact that humans have on the natural world and ensure that they understand the impacts of climate change and how they can be advocates within their own communities. Our third focal area is life skills. We have the Gold Award, which is the highest award that a Girl Scout can earn. And she earns this by making sustainable change in her community, choosing something, an issue that's important to her, and building a team to figure out how to create that change. And then finally, our last focal area is business and entrepreneurship, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, the main program of which is our cookie sales, our Girl Scout cookies, where girls are learning goal setting, decision making, money management, and so much more.
And I want to say thank you so much for sharing a little bit more of the work that you're doing outside of the cookie program, because I think, as you mentioned, a lot of us are very familiar with that. But it's amazing to see that the girls are doing so many other, things, just throughout their time there that can help build their confidence and so much more. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I definitely want to get into the cookie program. Can you tell us a little bit more about the program and its significance for Girl Scouts of Greater New York?
Absolutely. So last week we kicked off our cookie sales. Thousands of Girl Scouts across New York City are obtaining business and entrepreneurship skills while going out there and selling cookies. They're coming up with a goal. So Girl Scouts use these funds to go to camp, to earn badges, to go on trips, and they're creating those goals and figuring out how many cookies they need to sell in order to reach those goals. So that's part of that goal setting and earning. They sell three traditional ways. So the first is they have that traditional order card, that physical order card where they're going up to family and friends and asking them to buy those cookies. The second is they all have the option of a digital platform. E-commerce is so important as we're moving into this digital world, as we are in this digital world. So Girl Scouts have the option of that digital online link. And then later in the season, you may encounter Girl Scout troops selling out in front of small businesses, out in front of community centers, etc., during booth sales.
Now, what do you think makes the program so special, not only for the Girl Scouts, but for people in the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's certainly nostalgia that comes along with Girl Scout cookies, right? We all have our favorites. It is American as apple pie in so many ways. So I think the community has that connection with it, but also understanding that buying a box of cookies is so much more than just a box of cookies. Again, the girls are obtaining those important skills such as goal setting, money management, decision making, business ethics, and so much more. So each time that you go and you see a Girl Scout selling cookies, just remember that it is so much more than a box of cookies.
Now, I want to take a moment to highlight a very special Girl Scout. Kalila, the top cookie seller in the Bronx, sold 1,424 boxes of cookies
Amazing.
last year, which is super amazing. That's such an amazing accomplishment. But what I want to know is, what does it take for a Girl Scout to achieve this level of success? And we actually have a clip of Kalila talking a little bit about her experience, so let's take a look.
The things I've learned while being a Girl Scout are math skills, business skills, and social skills. My favorite thing about being a Girl Scout is making friends with other Girl Scouts. My favorite thing about selling cookies is seeing the smiles on people's faces whenever they're ordering or getting their boxes. My secret to selling so many cookies is keeping connections with my customers. My favorite place in the Bronx to sell cookies is at my church, Morning Star Full Gospel Assembly.
Now, that was so amazing to hear from her, but I'd love to hear from you. Again, what does it take for a Girl Scout to achieve that level of success?
Yeah, this is all part of practicing those skills, right? Business leaders all over the world will cite the Girl Scout cookie program as their first real introduction into these skills, right? And it takes a lot. If you think about when you were a child to go up and make that sale, the confidence to go up and ask an adult to buy cookies, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of confidence. And thinking about the goals you want to achieve and the logistics that go into all of this, it is a lot of management, and these girls are obtaining real skills at a very early age.
Now, I'm curious to know what feedback do you hear from caregivers about the cookie program benefits, especially in regards to their children?
Certainly confidence. That is number one, is again making those sales and seeing that confidence in that shift. As you heard from our Girl Scout, doing that together as a team, right? That collaborative effort. We all know that anywhere we go in life, we are going to have to work with others, from all different types of working styles, and having that collaboration experience is so important. And then money management, learning that from a very young age is so important. How to save up for things and knowing what it takes to reach that level.
And I also want to add that I think it's amazing. Just doing this work, I hear a lot about women in business and how, we continuously congratulate women for making strides in business just because it's not easy to. So to see that, very young girls are kind of getting their foot in the door early, it is very inspiring. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about the Cookie Executive Committee and the perks of being a part of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our cookie execs are Girl Scouts who sell over 500 packages of cookies in any given season, and there's a variety of perks that we give to these Girl Scouts for achieving that level. So one is we do various celebrations with them. We also introduce them to business leaders and do financial literacy workshops for them.
That's amazing. Now, if people are interested in buying cookies, where can they find troops to support?
Yeah, if you go to www.girlscoutsnyc.org, girlscoutsnyc.org/find cookies. So that's girlscoutsnyc.org/find cookies. There you'll find our cookie locator. It'll show you digital cookie links all over New York City for Girl Scouts that are selling within your neighborhood.
Now, I kind of want to talk about something a little fun. I'm curious to know what are some of the most popular cookie, just flavors that are out there that you see across the city?
Yeah, absolutely. So across the country, the number one is Thin Mints and the number two is Samoas. However, here in New York City, we flipped that. The top cookie seller in New York City is the Samoa, and the second is the Thin Mint. So it little bit different, little bit of competition. It's a really tough call for me. I think personally, my favorite is the Thin Mint, but the Samoa is it's a very very close second.
And are there any flavors or varieties or cookies being retired this year?
Yeah, so we are saying goodbye to the s'mores cookie this year. We loved it. It was a great flavor, but we certainly have lots of yummy flavors to still choose from. And, all of your favorites are still there.
Well, that's really good to hear, and I'm excited to look into that a little bit more. Now, looking ahead, how do you envision the Girl Scout cookie program continuing to evolve and empower future generations of Girl Scouts?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, our Girl Scouts have the option of creating a digital cookie link and learning about e-commerce. Obviously, that is the future we are in. That is the reality. And in tandem with that, we teach our girls about cybersecurity, how to keep themselves safe online and understand the risks that are out there, and how it impacts businesses, how it impacts your everyday life. So hugely important as these Girl Scouts go out and navigate the world.
Now, how can people support the work of the Girl Scouts beyond volunteering, and are there any other ways to contribute to the cause?
Yeah, absolutely. First, buy cookies, buy Girl Scout cookies. Remember that importance anytime a Girl Scout comes up to you and asks if you'd like to buy one, that it's so much more than just buying a box of cookies. Next is you can always go to our website and make donations there as well. We do have our gala coming up in May. May 6th is our Gold Achievement Gala. Feel free to go to girlscoutsnyc.org for any further information. We welcome any and all support.
Now, I understand that you have something very special in New York City. I believe it's Troop 6000 or 600. Can you tell me a little bit more about this troop and its unique mission?
Yeah, so Troop 6000 is a program specifically designed for Girl Scouts and their families experiencing homelessness within New York City. We have troops that meet within shelters across New York City weekly and ensure that those Girl Scouts are able to have all the same benefits that Girl Scouts have across New York City. All of this programming is 100% free of cost. These Girl Scouts enjoy going to camp, enjoy earning badges, going on trips, and so much more.
That's amazing. And I love to hear that there's something for girls of any background, because I think this is an experience that I know hearing this growing up, I was like, I wish I could have been a Girl Scout. So it's so nice to see that it's something that's accessible to so many different types of girls throughout New York City. What do you hope to see for the future of the program and how it's impacting girls, especially in New York?
Absolutely. So you just hit the nail right on the head there. We want to ensure that there are no barriers to access and that every single girl across New York City has that opportunity to join.
That's amazing. Now, can you tell us a little bit about, your experience being a part of this? Because I could imagine just kind of as a leader, it means a lot for a lot of girls, who probably see the work that you're doing. So can you tell me a little bit more about your experience?
Yeah, so although I've been in New York City for over 20 years myself, I did grow up in Western New York and in Buffalo. I was a Daisy Girl Scout there, and I had the opportunity to have my mom as my troop leader. My background is primarily in youth development, so I was a camp director. I led a variety of programs. I love being outdoors, and I know that Girl Scouts instilled that in me. Being able to go to Girl Scout camp at a very, very young age was so formative to me. Every experience I had in Girl Scouting was so formative and important. And there are skills every single day that I still look back on. Even as I'm on this program right now, I think back to being at Girl Scout camp and being shy and being around a campfire and being told, hey, stand up and sing a silly song in front of all of us, and having that courage to do that and that confidence makes you realize that you can speak in front of everybody, and it's totally okay. Have that confidence.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and kind of sharing some of the work that you're doing to, help inspire girls across New York City. I think it's an amazing program. So once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a really great day.
You too. To learn more about these programs, please go to their website at girlscoutsnyc.org. Don't go away, we'll be back with more Open right after this.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Welcome back. New Yorkers United for Childcare is a new organization made up of parents and would-be parents in New York City who are organizing to build the political power needed to win free universal childcare for all. They believe that the impact on free childcare would help boost the New York economy and the workforce. Joining me virtually to share more about their fight is Roona Ray, a parent leader for New Yorkers United for Childcare. Roona, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me. I used to be a Bronx resident, so I'm really excited to
Oh,
be back for a Bronx audience.
that's amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about the organization and the overall mission?
Sure. New Yorkers United for Childcare got started a little over a year ago, about a year and a half, I'd say. And the mission is to extend free universal childcare to all children from ages 0 to 5.
Now, childcare is such.
Starting in New York
Oh,
City and then
sorry.
extending to the state. My mistake.
Okay. Now, as I was about to mention, like childcare is such a critical issue for families, especially in New York City. What makes it such a pressing concern, and how does the organization aim to address it?
Um, well, so I'm a mom of 3 kids under the age of 5. I live in Queens, in Jackson Heights, Queens, and I'm unemployed. Uh, so having childcare would really enrich my children's lives and also make it a lot easier for me to apply to jobs and interview for jobs and that kind of thing. It's a pressing issue both for people who aren't working and looking for work like me, and especially for people who have work, because you can't go to work without decent childcare, and childcare costs are just spiraling out of control in New York City. It makes it really challenging to be able to even afford to go to work. We're fighting for universal childcare, ages 0 to 5. This is my 2.5-year-old who's home with me right now.
So adorable.
He's nice.
Now, I want to take a moment to highlight an initiative that the organization is currently working on, and it's the To Care campaign, which advocates for free childcare for 2-year-olds. Can you tell me a little bit more about that campaign and why it's so important for families?
Yeah. So currently there's 3K and pre-K, which is for 4-year-olds in New York City. Those are universal programs that are free. My oldest child is in the pre-K. She's 4 and she's been in pre-K and 3K for the last 2 years, and it's been a real blessing for our family. To care is really important too. My son here, Cyrus, he goes to his big sister's school when we go for like family parties or to pick up or drop off my older girl, and he says to me, he says, I want to go to school. There's a seat for me. There's pizza for me. Because he just thinks it's so fun to be doing what his big sister was doing. Parents need to have this kind of option to like a safe, enriching place to leave um, their children so that they can, do the things that they need to do in order to survive and thrive. So the 2Care program, a universal program for 2-year-olds across the city would really just improve the lives of working people across the board.
Now, what kind of support have you seen from the community and elected officials so far?
We had a kickoff stroller brigade at City Hall. Um, was it last Sunday? Uh, and about 100 families came out. It was a cold Sunday morning. We had a number of elected officials come. The ones I'm remembering off the top of my head are Senator Jessica Ramos. She's actually my senator here in Queens. I believe Brad Lander was there. He's the comptroller. I remember seeing Sandy Nurse and oh gosh, I can't remember her name right now. A city councilor from Queens. So there's a lot of politicians who really believe that extending um, universal childcare down to age 2 is important. A really great initiative that'll help families stay in the city. A lot of people, when they see the cost of childcare in the city and they have kids, they often leave, and you lose really, wonderful people to the city. A lot of people talked about losing their friends to moving away when they have kids. Um, and of course, we lose a lot of the talented workforce, when parents decide to leave the city. So the initiative is really to help make um, New York a more affordable place to live for working parents.
Now, I want to talk about just the idea of universal childcare because when we say it, it's kind of like a really broad term, but I'm very curious to know what would that actually look like? Like, what would a typical day in New York City look like if we did have universal childcare?
Well, it would look a lot like what the 3K and the pre-K days look like. So, those days are for my older daughter, who's in pre-K right now. We drop her off around 8:30 in the morning, and then she has a wonderful. She has two teachers actually in her classroom, a main teacher and an assistant teacher. There's about 18 kids in the classroom. And this year, when she was in 3K, the numbers were smaller. She had two teachers and I think around 14 kids, maybe even 12. I don't remember. Um, and then she's there from 8:30 until about 2:30 in the afternoon. Um, and I imagine 2Care would look about the same. Although, honestly, I think our goals are to make the education system in the pre-K age really reflect the workday, because it's hard for many parents to pick up their kids at 2:30 in the afternoon if they're working. Um, so ideally, we're aiming to have like covered after school care that reaches closer to the end of many people's workdays, not everybody's.
Now, I want to talk about something that I think is also very important, and it's that universal child care would not only benefit families, but also just the overall state of New York in terms of the economy and workforce participation. Can you tell us a little bit more about, that conclusion?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of research that shows that people, when they become parents, often, have to drop out or drop down from the amount of work they're doing in the paid workforce. Obviously, the amount of work you're doing at home when it's unpaid is very high, and of course, the majority of people doing this are women and mothers, and so. Um, this would be a direct investment in the mostly female workforce, the millions of moms who are often staying at home to help take care of their kids, who are unable to advance professionally. It would be a big investment in those people, and I know that the city and state really says that they support working women. So this is a place to really put substantive, um, material programming down to support working women to work, to contribute to the economy, to advance their careers and their families' economic situations.
Now, I'm just kind of curious to know, could there be any financial challenges when we talk about kind of implementing two care and just, childcare for 2-year-olds?
Um, I mean, politicians, people who make decisions have to just, uh, decide that this is a priority for them and set aside the money. They can do that in a lot of other fields, and they have done that already for 3K and pre-K. So it's just a matter of earmarking the money and deciding that this is a priority for New Yorkers.
Now, how can New Yorkers get involved in the campaign for 2 care and universal child care? Because I know right now this may seem like, a concern for parents, but there are so many people, as I mentioned in the beginning, would-be parents or people who may have families in the future. So what can all New Yorkers do to ensure that this is something that we can see in our city?
You can contact your city councilor and also your state representatives, and tell them that you support 2Care, you support the universal child care from ages 0 to 5, that they should be putting that on their horizon. The current initiative is focused on New York City, so contacting your city councilors would be helpful for the immediate future. But I've seen politicians really be interested in this across the board because they know that the cost of childcare is just really out of control. Like I've talked to families involved in the organization who are paying $36,000 a year um, to put their kids in childcare, and sometimes that's like more than people are even making. Um, and that's not really sustainable. Everything's getting too difficult, cost of living wise.
And I'm so glad that you kind of mentioned those numbers because that kind of leads into my next question. In your opinion, how could expanding childcare access help close the gap in terms of educational equality, particularly for children in marginalized communities where they may be coming from low income backgrounds?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There's like lots of research and education that shows that having access to education in the preschool years and the 0 to 5 years really sets you up for like a lifetime of all kinds of successes, not just in health, but not just in education, but in health and in life. And the people who are less able to access childcare in those years are people who are um, are often poor people of color. Sorry, it's hard to focus when
Yeah.
there's too many of me.
It's okay.
Um, and as I said before, an investment in early childhood education is a direct investment, both in for working women, but also especially for communities of color, marginalized communities. The previous speaker was talking about the homelessness crisis in the city, and imagine if all those children who are unhoused could go to like a safe, warm, welcoming, school every day. Those kids 0 to 5 who are unhoused, it would really, I'm sure, help the parents find housing, find work, find the services they need. Taking care of a kid is like a full-time job, and so it's hard to do anything else.
Now, what message do you have for, parents who are struggling to find affordable childcare? What would you say to them? And, where would you kind of uh, show them to or lead them to in regards to finding support?
Well, both for parents who are currently going through it, those who have already gone through it, those who are thinking about it, or those who are in the auntie brigade, as some call it. First of all, you can get involved with New Yorkers United for Childcare. You should just Google New Yorkers United for Childcare. um, Find our website and get involved. Um, but in terms of like figuring out childcare in New York, I think a lot of people have done like my family has, and they kind of cobble together this patchwork of family, friends, neighbors, of course, childcare providers, nannies, babysitters, daycares. It's really hard. It's through like word of mouth. It's through parent communities that you come across. Um, and then, of course, if you're doing paid childcare, you have to find the money for it. There are some people do
Right.
qualify for childcare vouchers, so if you think you might qualify, you should like try to look that up. New York City does have a childcare voucher system. Um, you can also try to like do informal sort of like childcare trades with your family and friends and neighbors.
Right.
I'll take care of your kid for a little while. On Friday afternoons, and you take care of my kid on
Right.
Tuesday
Well,
afternoons.
I
You
want
can
to
do those
say
things.
it kind of sounds like it takes a village. That's what's kind of coming to my head right now. And, with that, I want to thank you so much for kind of sharing a little bit more about the reality of what goes on in regards to childcare, even during our interview today. So, thank you so much for joining us and kind of sharing a little bit more about the community that you've built to help those in need.
Thanks so much. Yeah. It takes a village, but also it takes some legislation
Right.
passed
Exactly.
to get universal childcare for ages 2, 3, and 4.
Exactly. And with that, I want to let everyone know if you want to learn more or help join their fight, please visit their website at united4childcare.org. Stay tuned. We have more for you right after this.
Hey, creative family. My name is Timothy Coleman, and I'm the Director of Education here at BronxNet. And I'm standing in BronxNet's Media and Technology Studios in the South Bronx, because I want to let you know about an amazing program that we're bringing back that highlights the creativity of community members just like you. Emerging Media Makers is a show that introduces you to BronxNet's certified producers. They've taken a step in their creative journey by enrolling in BronxNet's media training classes. On this show, you'll get to see the many ways that our certified producers have created a space that's all their own. Emerging Media Makers, your passion lives here.
Only 57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. "55% of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. "34% of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit BronxNet.org to learn more.
Welcome back. Seasonal affective disorder, also known as seasonal depression or the winter blues, is a type of depression that occurs around the same time each year, usually in the fall and winter. Last December, we got the chance to sit down with Dr. Jenny Seahem, attending psychologist for the Child Psychiatric Outpatient Department at Montefiore Health System, who talked to us a little bit more about SAD. Let's take a look. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Now, can you explain or tell us a little bit more about seasonal affective disorder and how it manifests in patients?
Sure. Very important this season as seasonal affective disorder is a depression. It is a mood disorder, and it is, as the name suggests, it is really reliant on the season. So it usually starts in late fall and runs throughout the winter until the seasons change again and there's more light. So although it really mimics the symptoms of depression, it really is unique to this season, but can be very, very serious, very severe. And so it's great to shine a light on it.
Now, expanding on that a little bit, I know you said that it kind of differs a little bit from what we traditionally know about depression. Can you tell me a little bit more about, maybe what are some differences and what they look like?
Yes. So it is the actual diagnosis is dependent upon the season, and those symptoms can go away once the spring happens and there's more light and there's more the days are longer. So that's what really distinguishes it. But what's really important to know is how impactful that daylight and that change in daytime can be on our body.
Now, is there a specific population or age group more susceptible to SAD?
There is. What the research is showing is that women are more susceptible than men, and that people between the ages of 18 to 30 are more susceptible. I want to say, though, partly we don't have enough research on children. It absolutely impacts children and teens, but we may be overlooking it, and we need to take a look at them and take care of them as well.
And I want to expand on that because I feel like our society, we're thinking about mental health in a different way. We're including children in that conversation now. You know, if this is the case, you know, how may SAD present in children or teenagers compared to adults?
Right. So in children, you may see an irritable child and an irritable adult, and they may look a little different, right? And so sometimes even in our practice, we will see parents bring in kids because like, oh, their behavior and oh, they're out of control, or the school might have said something. And what we uncover is that there's depression happening, that there's irritability or boredom because there's fatigue, there's been this impact on concentration, tiredness, there's been an impact on their eating behaviors, there's been a huge impact on sleeping because there may be an excess of melatonin, or there may be a decrease in serotonin, which is kind of known as the happiness neurotransmitter. So in kids, this may look like, oh, they're bored, or oh, they're a teenager and their hormones. Absolutely, they're a teenager and their hormones, but the light change, the daylight change, the circadian rhythm change is making this impact, and they may not be able to talk about it, so we need to talk to them and find out what's going on.
Now, I want to talk about the role that climate change, you know, climate plays in SAD. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And, you know, also, people think of this time as like the happiest time of the year. You know, how could that also be contributing to someone's overall mood?
Yeah, I'm going to take the second one first because I think there's a great expectation, right? It's the holidays and everyone's happy and that's what's on TV and yay, it's Christmas and it's Thanksgiving. And that when somebody is feeling down, that can really contribute to negative thoughts that can perseverate in somebody's brain, right? Like, I'm not feeling happy. I'm not feeling okay. What's wrong with me? There must be something that I'm not doing, or I'm a bad person, or I'm worthless. And what is really happening is that there's a change. There's been a change in our body clock when somebody's experiencing that. For all of us, our body clock changes. That impacts mood, that impacts sleep, and that impacts concentration and hormone activity. So there is actually changes that are happening that really make it hard for people to feel happy. So, you know, that kind of leads us into some of the stigma about mental health, or saying that something is wrong when you just feel like, oh no, I'm just lazy, or I'm just, you know, a bad kid or a bad parent.
Now, how does this, you know, mood disorder affect people in urban settings like NYC?
Yeah. So when we think about sunlight and time to go out, and because being out in the sun really is impactful on our well-being, right? There's a production of vitamin D, which is one of the aspects that is reduced because we don't have enough sun. So think about being in an urban setting, and I'm in an urban setting too. There are tall buildings that block the sun, in addition to the change in hours and the change in the sunlight. Tall buildings, also things get dark, right? And so we say, go out and, you know, take a run, or sometimes that's dangerous. Sometimes we don't really have access to nature, to something that is going to help us feel good. But there are solutions. There are definitely solutions.
Now, I want to talk a little bit more about those solutions. So, you know, what are some treatments or interventions that are most effective for managing SAD or SAD in children and adolescents as well as adults?
Yeah. Most important is to get the sunlight that you can, right? And the very best that we can do is families doing things together, because interaction socially, or, you know, also having your kids have play dates, or teens have going out with teens. You know, we all spend a lot of time on social media, And there's a lot of benefits to social media, but when we're feeling down, this is not a time to isolate in the room. This is a time to go out and get the sunlight we can. So activity, exercise, as much sunlight as possible, and socialization. So the second level is therapy. If this is something that's persisting, if this is something that you are feeling all day, every day, and it's been lasting for 2 weeks, that's a depression that really needs attention. So the other thing that's available is talk therapy, evidence-based talk therapy. And one of the strongest is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. And one of the things that does is really address the negative thoughts that we have. I'm worthless, I can't, I'm fat, I've been eating too much and I can't control myself, to address not only with psychoeducation about what's going on with SAD, but also with really targeting these negative thoughts. The third thing is light, is actually getting a light box that, and what they say is that it needs to emit 10,000 LUX, which is the measure of the light intensity, right? And do not look at it directly, and preferably get a prescription for this, or you don't need a prescription, but talk to your provider about it. But it really makes an impact. 30 minutes in the morning, kind of changing what you used to have when the sun was shining, makes an impact. Fourth is psychotropic medication. So I mentioned before that one of the neurotransmitters, serotonin, that's something that is encouraged and produced by being out in the sunlight. When the sunlight's not there, we're not producing that, right? And so there are medications that kind of replace what we're missing. The last thing I'll say is vitamin D, which is something that also decreases when we're not out in the sunlight. But again, that's something that you should talk to your provider about, because sometimes that interacts, even though that's a good vitamin to have, it can interact with other medication.
Now, I want to talk about the stigma surrounding SAD. Can you just quickly let us know what we can do to kind of, step away from that?
Yes. Anytime you can, be a friend, be a parent, be a colleague that is like, how are you doing? What's going on? And educate people about SAD. So we can all do that. You don't need to be an attending psychologist. We can all help people understand that most of us have a little bit of the winter blues, right? In addition to the, holiday happiness, the absence of light and the change in our sleeping patterns have an impact. But we can do a lot in just educating. We can do a lot. And parents also be the model for your kids that, I'm feeling down and I think I'm depressed. So we can do a lot to really decrease the stigma.
Well, Dr. Owen, thank you so much for joining us and kind of educating our community on this.
Thank you so much.
To stay in touch with all of Montefiore's efforts, please go to their website at montefioreeinstein.org. We'd like to thank the team at Montefiore for coming on our show to help educate our viewers about seasonal affective disorder and how it differs from other forms of depression. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
What's up, creative family? Discover your voice with BronxNet Community Media classes. Are you ready to bring your ideas to life? At BronxNet, we offer television production classes for community members ages 18 and over, empowering you to share your vision with the world. Get certified in field production, in-studio production, and our new exciting addition, podcast production. Once certified, you can create your own show to air on one of our 6 TV channels. It all starts with our free Unleash Your Ideas Masterclass, designed to help you plan your show idea and set you up for success on your production journey. This class is offered at the beginning of each month for your convenience. Our dedicated BronxNet team is here to support, encourage, and uplift you every step of the way. Join us and become a part of the creative force that engages and inspires the Bronx community and beyond. Sign up today and start your media journey with BronxNet. Visit bronxnet.org/education to learn more and register. Let's create something amazing together.
Welcome back. The Bronx Economic Development Corporation has been playing a crucial role in helping local entrepreneurs and small businesses access the capital they need to grow and succeed. Whether it's providing loans, grants, or connecting business owners with financial resources, BXEDC is helping turn small ideas into thriving enterprises in our community. Joining us to share more about how they're empowering Bronx businesses with the resources to succeed is the director of the Empowerment Zone at BXEDC, Ruvi Lopez, along with Chief of Staff at BXEDC, Luis Garcia. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Now, before we get a little bit more into the specifics, can you briefly tell us a little bit more specifically about the role BXEDC plays in supporting local small businesses?
Yeah, I can start us off. First of all, again, thank you for having us. It's great to be a part of this conversation with y'all because we want to talk more about the support we do for businesses. So outside of access to capital, we also make sure that we are cultivating an environment for businesses in the Bronx, the type of environment that businesses need to thrive. So an example, we make sure to cultivate those relationships by hosting a series of workshops, which we call the Economic Empowerment Workshop. Those allow us to not only provide a networking space, but we bring in together CPAs, we bring in banking experts, we bring in folks that can help just provide best practices and really help educate the small businesses. So we create as many of these opportunities as possible to make sure that businesses are getting the support they need. And then oftentimes we're assessing what those supports are.
Now, you briefly mentioned education, which I want to say is so important just because I'm even hearing some of this stuff. I'm like, oh, what is that? Can you talk about the importance of education and educating people from the Bronx about small businesses? Because a lot of the times people have really amazing ideas, but they don't know where to start.
Absolutely. I could jump in. I think education is the biggest hurdle we currently have in the Bronx now. It's really about just getting that small business to the starting line, whether it's with a business plan or just coming up with a concrete idea of what they want to do with their business. And the way we are helping them is by the financial workshops, as we have said, and working with CPAs, because CPAs are what we have to really talk to the small business owner, as small business owners really rely on those people to get somewhere. So I think education is for sure the biggest hurdle we currently have, and we're working to bridge that gap.
Now, we know small businesses often face difficulty when trying to get loans from traditional banks. How does the organization bridge the gap and help entrepreneurs get the financing they need?
Yeah, so bring up the workshops again, because that's one of the main reasons of why we started it. So when we do the workshops, the economic empowerment workshops, we host them at a local community bank. The reason for this is so that when we're there, we're able to point directly to the business owners and to the CPAs and to the banking experts that are on site and say, this is the first step, is you have to cultivate a relationship with folks. You have to build a friendship. You have to know who these bankers are, and so that when you're talking about securing your loan or you're talking about the vision for your business, they're able to provide you the steps, the guidance, and to help you get to that point of where you want to start your business, or if you're already in the middle of starting your business, you want to see how to grow your business.
And with that, how do you help small business owners build strong financial plans and just help kind of secure that idea? Because as I mentioned, a lot of people have great ideas and sometimes they're very passionate about it, so they may kind of be on one path. How do you kind of help people kind of open their mind into understanding like, hey, you may need to change certain things, or you may need to do certain things if you really want to succeed?
Yeah, I think something that Luis mentioned earlier was the business plan. And a lot of times we start there. The business plan is essentially your roadmap.
So with that, you're able to say and know what direction you're going in your business. You're able to understand the benchmarks that are needed to attain whatever the goal is for your business. It also just helps you with, as you're crafting your vision, you're able to say, okay, well, this is the direction we're going. We need to have a cost breakdown. What's going to be the cost of our service, or what's going to be the cost of our goods? So oftentimes the business plan really is the sort of the foundation of the business. And then from that you can grow, and there will be custom to change, but oftentimes that's the first step that you want to take.
Now, the organization has approved nearly $1.5 million in loans to Bronx businesses in 2024, which I think is definitely worth noting. That's an amazing accomplishment. What makes these loans unique, and why are they so important to small businesses?
So I would say the one thing that makes these loans so unique is that these businesses wouldn't be able to get the funding elsewhere. So we were able to bridge that gap for them in terms of getting them those loans. There are also small businesses that we visit every day, whether it's the restaurant, the local bodega, or the local cupcake maker. So we were there to bridge that gap for them, help them expand and grow. And another thing that I think is really important is that we are able to kind of bring a lower interest rate to these small businesses. They're no longer paying that 25% every month. We're able to bring a much lower interest rate to expand their business and help them continue to succeed and gain more revenue.
And I also want to mention and highlight, we're talking about the Bronx, which is pretty amazing considering the Bronx just generally has so many different challenges. Even this, with these challenges, 20% more businesses have been created in the South Bronx since 2011, which I think is pretty cool and pretty amazing. Can you tell us a little bit more about why we're seeing this type of growth in the Bronx?
Yeah, I can tap into that. So there's a lot of economic incentives in the Bronx. So for instance, the empowerment zone, that's one of those sort of tax incentives that help businesses as they're looking at spaces for them to build their business. Empowerment zone is one of those federally designated areas that provides tax incentives in ways that folks can save, as well as things like REAP, which is the relocation employment assistance program. So that helps businesses if they're looking to look for space in the Bronx and relocating their business from another borough. That's one of those economic incentives. And then lastly, just the general affordability. I believe the Bronx is much more affordable per square footage. So you just have a general affordability that I think that after the pandemic, a lot of businesses realized there's something to be invested in the Bronx. It's unfortunate it took a pandemic, right? It took a global pandemic to shut us down and show us that, hey, the Bronx, despite all of those unfortunate circumstances, continue to feed New York City, continue to not only grow in terms of jobs, wages, and retention. So there's a magic in the Bronx that I think we understood, and that's why we work so diligently to provide these type of support for businesses. But I think other folks are realizing from a more economic side, if you're willing to and you want to invest in the Bronx and grow your business, it's a good place to start.
Now, I will say, as somebody who's kind of grown up in the Bronx, I've seen so many local businesses, and so I'm very familiar with the power of, the mom and pop shop, or, just somebody who had an idea, or who came to this country and had an idea to do something great. With that, I want to also acknowledge that historically there have been so many challenges with people kind of making a name for themselves through business in the Bronx. Can you tell me a little bit more about what some of those challenges were?
Absolutely, I could tap into that. So I think the main challenge, as we touched on before, was education. Many of these businesses aren't really equipped to go to the starting line to get a loan. Many of these businesses haven't filed taxes in a couple of years. So that's where we really want to kind of tap in with the workshops and make sure that they know to get to the starting line for a loan, you first need to have everything in order. So that's what we're really working on now, which is the technical assistance piece of it. Just making sure these businesses know we can't do anything without you having your papers in order. So I think the main focus for us has been education and technical assistance for the small businesses.
And if I can dovetail on that, just because you bring up a good point, you have those issues for a business, right? But then on top of that, many of these businesses are operated and solely operated by an individual. So we're factoring in having to produce the service or whatever the business is, but then you're also having to train staff, you're having to secure funding, you have to pay rent, you have to do all number of things that go along with the business. So it's education as well as the general plight of just what are the struggles and the challenges of running a business. And then you factor that in the Bronx, you factor all these different things, it's a challenge. So that's why we, as we're out there assessing how to support these businesses, a lot of it is just sort of listening and figuring out what are their challenges, because it's very different than other boroughs. So we're always trying to figure out with the unique challenges needs a unique solution.
And kind of want to expand on, you brought up education, financial literacy. Now, this is a term that I've been hearing a lot more recently. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it means to be financially literate and, what that can do for so many people in the Bronx, whether or not they want to get into the field of business or not?
I can tap into that, and I know Luis has a couple things to say about that. So first of all, we try not to call it financial literacy because at the end of the day, businesses are coming with different levels of education around their business. So that's why we intentionally call the workshops economic empowerment, because we wanted to sort of empower businesses with the understanding of how to manage their finances. So it's kind of like it's a little bit of an assumption to think that most of these businesses just lack the financial literacy. It's not the case. It's like, to go back to the point we just made, these businesses are dealing with a lot more than just operating their business. It's also managing and growing the business. So it's education, and that's why we want to focus on financial literacy or economic empowerment. But a lot of it really is just giving them the directions in the right place of where they need to go next. And sometimes it's just having a good partnership with a bank or knowing a CPA who can tell you in advance, you got to pay your taxes today or your taxes this year, because with paying your taxes, you're able to then secure a loan down the line.
Thank you so much for sharing. Did you want to expand on that?
I think just dovetailing off of what Ruvi said, just the main thing is meeting the business owner where they are. They are all at different stages of their business and where they need to be. So we just make sure we meet them at the place where they are, and just making sure they know, like, we're here to help no matter what.
And I love the term economic empowerment, I think it's a really great term, so thank you so much for sharing that. Now, looking ahead, are there any new programs or initiatives that the organization is planning to roll out to further support the Bronx's small business community?
Yeah, I could tap in. So as we've said, workshops have been kind of our word today, so we're going to continue the monthly workshops with our many partners in the borough. We're also excited to announce that BX Factor, which is our version of the Shark Tank, will be returning May 2025 during Bronx Week. And we're also just going to keep an eye out to keep tailoring our loan products to meet the needs of all the businesses in the borough, whether they're big or small, whether it's one person or 100. We're just going to keep updating our loan products to make sure we bridge that need.
And did you want to expand on that?
No, I think you touched it right on where it needs to be said.
Now, how can someone who's interested in starting or growing a business in the Bronx get in touch with the organization to learn more or apply for support?
Yeah, you can check out our website, BXEDC.org. Check out our Instagram as well. We have a pretty active Instagram. Right now we're talking about Savor the Bronx, which is our version of Restaurant Week. So you can go either our website to check out our loans and any of our upcoming events, or check out our Instagram handle, where we're all constantly updating on not just events that we're producing, but also just what's happening in the community as well.
Now, I want to say, I heard you briefly mention like your version of Shark Tank, which I thought was so exciting. And I'm like, don't be surprised if you see me, because I always have like these ideas, and I'm like, I could run a business. But I definitely want to mention that I think it's such an amazing just initiative to kind of help people in the Bronx. As I mentioned, growing up here, I've seen a lot of people run businesses or come from different countries and, make a name for themselves here in the Bronx. And I think it's so amazing that we're seeing organizations continuously, give support to so many people who, as you mentioned, are dealing with so many other things outside of being a business owner. They're human after all, and they're dealing with a lot of stuff. So I think this is an amazing initiative to help people in the Bronx. And with that, I want to appreciate you both so much for joining us and talking a little bit more about the work that you're doing to support these small business owners.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
To find out more about their services for small businesses, please go to their website, BXEDC.org. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you miss any part of today's show, you can catch the Recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.